Once it knows how to mimic the artist, it can then produce content at a scale that a human could never compete against.
Right.
So that's the problem, right? It's like, well, how are these artists going to get compensated for the work that they're doing?
So what's generative AI?
Basically, that's what it is. It allows for the user to create compositions from words.
Yeah.
So you create a prompt, it translates that prompt into the music that you want to create.
Okay. What are the issues that are coming from that world that we're seeing right now? Because
what are the issues? Well, I think the biggest issue right now is just how is the machine or the AI learning? And it's learning from the work of everybody who has ever put music out without their knowledge or consent. And I think that's really what's being discussed right now and what's at the table. And it's going to be the first piece of the puzzle to be able to move forward.
But it seems like, now it doesn't seem like it. I mean, the reality is there are companies out there that are moving at lightning pace.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that that's happening. They're just breaking everything because there is, I guess, whoever gets it right or gets the biggest market share will win this battle, it seems like, with these companies.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the nature of startups, and especially in technology, right? It's like disrupt, break things and rebuild them in a much faster, quicker way and make them very scalable.
But how can they do that?
What do you mean by how can they do that?
How can a company like Suno or one of these companies take all this copywritten music, put it through their LLMs, right? That's the right term?
So an LLM is mainly like a language-based AI.
Okay.
This is more like generative music.
Okay,
Yeah. So it's a
music.
different type of AI, but it operates in the same way.
Right.
In the sense that it's essentially contextualizing the words that you're putting in as a prompt into musical notes. And depending on what is that you want to create with that platform, it'll provide you with that sound based on the words you're choosing.
Right.
And it can really run the spectrum, right? You can either be super technical with it, give it BPM, give it, the type of instruments and how you want to layer it. Or you can be really abstract and say, hey, I want you to make me a song that reminds me of being at the beach at sunset. And it'll essentially use that to figure out which kind of tone and instruments and mood you want to create and give you options based on what you're trying to look for.
Right.
So to answer your question, right, it's like, how can they do this?
Yeah.
I think it's more about like, they're building something that is so innovative, right? And it's very exciting that they were able to figure this out. They went ahead and did it just to prove the technology works. Now that it does work, now it's a conversation of like, all right, now we know that this is possible, right? Like what is the guardrails that we're going to put in place to ensure that we're not shooting ourselves in the foot and creating this thing that is going to learn from every possible artist without any sort of compensation or attribution for future works.
But the companies are still, I mean, they're right now, there's lawsuits going on and all that stuff, right?
So they are saying that their argument is that they can train on music because it's protected under fair use.
Right.
And therefore, they should be able to continue to build these tools, to build this platform using everyone else's IP because it is fair use. Now, obviously, there's a lot of problems with that argument. I'm no lawyer, but just from a pure ethical place, it just feels wrong to steal copyright or intellectual property of anyone really who has put their time, dedication, dreams all into this body of work that is now up for grabs.
All right, everybody, we're going to take a little break because if you're listening and thinking, fuck, I could really use some guidance right now, and you're serious about building your career in the music industry, I'm now offering private strategy sessions. These are fully personalized, just you and me tackling whatever you need in your career. With over 16 years of experience working with artists, managers, and brands, I can help you map out your next moves. Now, whether that's structuring your team, scaling your brand, navigating the industry, even figuring out what steps to take, whether to go to a distributor or to a record label and figuring out what are the best deal points, I can help you with your career with where you're at. You can now book a one-on-one with me through my Calendly, and you can find the link in the description. Now let's get back to the pod.
Licensing in music is incredibly complex because everybody owns a little piece of this record. And to get anything cleared, it would be very difficult to try to get, like, let's say Travis Scott, if you try to go and clear Sicko Mode, you would need to go and try to clear it with like 35 different stakeholders.
Right.
And that would just take crazy amounts of energy, money, and it would take just one person to say no to essentially block it from getting cleared.
Right.
So the way that the music is set up, music licensing set up today, it's not conducive to any sort of AI clearance.
Right. Yeah. It's not like, this isn't like something that's was already kind of put pen to paper and figured out in the court of law. This is all being figured out in real time.
Yeah. And, it's very complex and it's very challenging. Yeah. And I think part of the reasons why companies went ahead and did it without getting the proper licensing is because they knew it was going to take too long. There is this sort of difficult conversation that happens when you're speaking to stakeholders about new technologies and the use of music, because there's this lack of understanding of the technology itself or a lack of vision of where this could go, and also operating from a place where it's traditional framework of monetization that doesn't really work with AI, right? Like if you think about how royalties work, you're chasing pennies of a dollar across, a spectrum, right? But here we're talking about chasing pennies of a dollar of infinite amount. There's no way that's sustainable. So this is why it's so complex, right? Like you can't chase the same sort of royalty system or payments in this new paradigm. Therefore, you need to go back to the drawing board and figure out, well, how do we monetize this, knowing that there's so many players involved, and how do we all get a seat at the table?
Right.
That's going to take a long time. But then you have, this sort of like race to try to figure it out now because the technology is ready. Yeah. So that's sort of the balance of where we're at right now.
All right, we're going to take a little break because being an independent artist takes a lot, and Venice makes sure you don't have to figure it out alone. The Venice team listens to your music, provides direct feedback, builds your release plan, and connects you with opportunities that move your career forward. Venice is the only distributor that opens real doors. They've brought their members to YouTube offices, introduced them to top artist managers, and had Kendrick Lamar's engineer mix their record. Their focus is always on giving artists real access, real support, and a team invested in their next step. If you are ready for your next release, Venice is where you build with a team that understands what it takes. Now let's get back to the pod. So how does this get figured out ethically? Because you have, and Shara Senra, she's the founder and CEO of Gen Music AI. You're at that company. Tell me a little bit more about what you guys are building.
Yeah, so I joined Gen back in September of last year.
Yeah.
And the reason why I joined Gen and got into AI in the first place, because I was looking at the music landscape, trying to figure out what was going to be the next wave that was going to basically transform the music industry. And it just seemed like AI is going to transform beyond the music industry, basically every industry that we touch.
It's disrupting everything.
Correct. And to me, my entire career has been built through my relationships with artists. And I felt like it was important to be at a company that puts artists at the center of what they're doing and gives them the, I guess, importance and the weight
Mhm.
of building something that's going to benefit them and protect them. That's why I joined Jen. And, I really appreciate Shara's perspective. It's not easy to do to go out there and license training data, but she was able to do it. And so it is a proof of concept that it can be done. It's just going to take a long time.
Yeah.
I think it's time. Time is of the essence again. So I understand why there's this sort of push and pull
Mhm.
between doing it ethically and then going down a disruption path.
Yeah. I think some people who are, if I was going to take the other side of the argument, there's, I think, individuals who think about it and they say, well, how is this any different than sampling, or when, people had their own DAWs and all of a sudden a session player is no longer necessary, or a drummer,
Yeah.
right? How does this become any different in this world?
I think the difference here is that the machine is learning from an artist without their knowledge
Uh-huh.
or consent.
Okay.
And then once it knows how to mimic the artist, it can then produce content at a scale that a human could never compete against.
Right.
So that's the problem, right? It's like, well, how are these artists going to get compensated for the work that they're doing
Mhm.
if it's protected under fair use and your machine gets better, but their music, now it's not just in competition with humans, is now in competition with himself, with a machine that can output much more content than they could.
But would somebody say though that that's not necessarily the human? It's more so. Sorry, it's more so a tool, not so much the human. But the human is the creative that is prompting the program to do what it does.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you're prompting the platform to create a sound that is trained on somebody else's sound
Correct.
without being compensated. So there's no attribution to how the machine got better or how it got that specific sound. Even though you prompted it, there is no guardrails to say, oh, this could be copywritten material. We don't know. I mean, we saw that with the K Fresh issue that happened recently,
Yeah.
where, he Timbaland uploaded a track.
One of his tracks, and he called it a remix or whatever. Yeah.
Correct. But you could even still hear the producer tag.
The tag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think, and I think it mainly is because it's still learning. There's still quirks. There's still a lot that needs to be figured out. But again, I think it's really important to understand the implications of what a fair use approach means for the artist community, not in the short term, but over time. Like when you buy a house, you get a 30-year mortgage, right? We should be looking at this like, well, what is this going to look like in the course of 30 years and beyond?
Mm-hmm.
If anyone can train off of your music.
Mm-hmm.
And, what does that do to your catalog in 30 years?
It's a great question.
Yeah, I don't have the answer, but, know.
I don't either. I mean, the thing about that to me is like, it gets pretty interesting is, well, let me ask you this. So when you have these companies that are moving at lightning speed, how does a company like Gen Music AI compete?
Well, we compete in the sense that we're creating what we're calling a clean, base model
Yeah.
that gives brands or partners the peace of mind that they're not going to be infringing on any copyright, and they're able to then wholly own the output that is created.
Yeah. How big is the catalog that you guys have got?
Well, we continue to grow it every day, but she's been
That's
able
amazing.
to clear about 65 catalogs already.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's a work in progress, and that has actually taken about 3 years to get done.
Yeah.
And there's more conversations. I think as the AI conversation heats up,
Yeah.
more people are interested in speaking to us about their catalogs, because we have a framework that allows our partners to monetize in perpetuity.
So your role in this is bridging the artist community with the platform, right?
Yes.
Okay. So is that part of the conversation that you're having with them? How are
So
you communicating this?
not as granular, right? Like,
Right.
because it's like if I start talking about transforming like just glaze over and
Yeah, my audience might be glazing over this, to be honest.
yeah,
No, I don't
no.
know. No, they're smart.
So here's the thing.
My audience
The
is
way
crazy to say.
we love
By the
your
way.
audience.
Yeah.
No, I think the way that I'm approaching having these conversations with artists is more about money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Money is our language that we all understand
Yeah.
very clearly. So here's how we break it down. Our platform has fully licensed all of the catalog that we use for training, which has essentially allowed for our partners to monetize on every output that's created from that point on.
Mm-hmm.
The artist then owns 100% of every creation that is created on our platform, which can then be monetized. And the reason we can do that is because everything has been cleared.
When you say the artist, you're saying the person who put in the prompts, the creator.
The creator.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got you.
And that's, you can go and monetize that. Other platforms, you cannot go and monetize any of the creations because it's not licensed and it could potentially infringe on copyright.
Totally. But so so when you're saying that they own the output 100%, but is the songwriting that's already taken care of, like the publishing and all that?
So we don't get involved in any publishing,
Okay.
and we also don't have a lyric like tool.
Okay.
It's only
For
music for now. And the reason we haven't done that is because it's very difficult to go and try and train and get everything cleared once you have all of the lyrics. We saw it with Anthropic recently, like they got sued over the lyrics. And so we're just trying to keep it as clean as possible and move as quick as we can, but also be mindful of the artist community and ensure that they're protected.